1 second. One moment, folks. Okay, you should be able to continue. I don't think people had audio yet. So if you could just recap really fast our introduction and we will continue moving forward.
Sure. So I'm just going to start from the beginning, you guys. If you've already heard this once, take this time to go get an extra cup of coffee. So again, good afternoon. Welcome to the AmeriCorps Technical Assistance Call, intended to provide an overview of the FY 2020 AmeriCorps State and National Grant Competition. My name is Arminda Pappas. I'm the Grant Review Manager with AmeriCorps State and National. I'm also joined by Jennifer Basters-Thomas-Saby, our Deputy Director, Brittany Tonning, our Training Manager, and Sarah Yu, our Program Impact Manager. The purpose of today's call is to address appropriate AmeriCorps member service activities, staffing, grantee responsibilities, or any other question related to program design and management. We hope you've had an opportunity to review the NOFA application instructions, mandatory supplemental guidance, and performance measure instructions. These documents are available on our website, www.nationalservice.gov, under Grants and Funding. For those of you who are new to AmeriCorps, the NOFA page also includes additional resources to help you learn about this grant opportunity and how it may be relevant to your organization. These resources will also be helpful for commission staff when providing technical assistance related to the application process to the prospective applicants in your state. The resources include overview presentations of various aspects of AmeriCorps programming and additional guidance on specific application components, such as the logic model. This is the first of a series of technical assistance calls about the competition. We'll be scheduling additional calls throughout the fall, and we'll update the schedule on the NOFA page. Actually, they already are updated on the NOFA page, so you'll be able to find all this information there. So the topics are call number 2, best practices in budget development, on October 30th from 1:30 to 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The third call is best practices in developing performance measures on November 6th, again from 1:30 to 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And the last one scheduled is best practices in demonstrating evidence, November 13th from 1:30 to 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Please note that this call is intended for applicants who submit their applications directly to the Corporation for National and Community Service, such as national directs and tribal applicants, as well as organizations operating in states that do not have a service commission. Organizations that propose to operate in a single state apply directly to the Service Commission for the state in which they will operate. Single state applicants must contact their state commissions for state-specific deadlines and application processes. You can find the list of the commissions in your specific state on our website at www.nationalservice.gov by entering the term commission in the search tool. We're also working on including the list of commissions and their specific application deadlines on the NOFA page. It's important to contact your state commissions as soon as possible if you're interested in applying for this grant opportunity and plan to operate in one state, as their deadline is likely much earlier than the CNCS deadline. They have to go through internal competition processes before submitting the applications to us in January. So everybody should just be in listen-only mode right now, and we will be taking questions at the end of this call. So I'm going to start by providing an overview of important things to know about AmeriCorps, this grant competition, and the changes that were made to the NOFA this year. AmeriCorps State and National Funding is administered by the Corporation for National and Community Service, CNCS, the nation's largest grant maker supporting service and volunteering. AmeriCorps grants are awarded to eligible organizations proposing to engage AmeriCorps members in evidence-based or evidence-informed interventions to strengthen communities. Eligible organizations include nonprofits, faith and community-based organizations, state and local public agencies, federally recognized Indian tribes, and institutions of higher education. AmeriCorps grants provide partial funding to support AmeriCorps projects and programs. Grant recipients must contribute cash or in-kind match funds. Each applicant must describe a project that will deploy AmeriCorps members effectively to solve a significant community problem. Reviewers will consider the quality of the application's response to the selection criteria listed in the NOFA. The review process will also include a risk assessment to determine an applicant's ability to manage federal funds. If your program wishes to address community needs, again, only in one state, your organization must apply to your state or territory service commission. Multi-state AmeriCorps programs that address community needs in at least 2 states submit grant applications directly to CNCS. Applications are due to CNCS on Wednesday, January 8th at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. As noted previously, organizations proposing to operate in a single state and non-tribal applicants need to apply through their state commission and will have earlier submission deadlines. Depending on the availability of funding, CNCS expects that successful state and territory commissions, tribes, and national directs will be notified no later than May 1st, 2020. CNCS seeks to prioritize the investment of national service resources in several priority areas which are listed on page 1 of the NOFA and are described in more detail in the supplemental guidance. Please note that we welcome and fund applications for interventions that do not fall in these priorities. As in previous years, applicants must submit their applications electronically via the CNCS web-based system eGrants. It's recommended that applicants create an eGrants account and begin the application creation process as early as possible and at least 3 weeks before the deadline. Applications may not exceed 10 pages for the narratives or 12 pages for rural intermediaries and multi-state applicants with more than 5 operating sites. All applications must include at least one aligned performance measure that corresponds to the proposed primary service activity. The guidance document is available on the NOFA page, and we will have a separate technical assistance call related to performance measures in November, as I mentioned. The NOFA should be read together with the AmeriCorps regulations, the mandatory supplemental guidance, the application instructions, and the performance measure instructions. These documents are available on the 2020 AmeriCorps State and National NOFA page. Once you've reviewed all of the application materials carefully, you can send additional questions about the competition to us at AmeriCorps grants, that's all one word, at cns.gov. Federally recognized Indian tribes may apply via this NOFA or via the Indian Tribes NOFA, which will be released later in the FY 2020 fiscal year. For those of you who may have submitted applications previously, please note that there were some changes to this year's NOFA. Our Deputy Director, Jennifer Bass-Thomas-Davy, briefly went over them at the symposium. They include a required change of an increase in the minimum living allowance by $287 from $13,992 to $14,279 to be consistent with the VISTA average annual subsistence allowance per our statute. CNCS policy changes included eliminating the email of intent, removing medium and strong evidence tiers as strategic considerations, and increasing the point value of evidence tier and decreasing the point value of theory of change and logic model. There were changes made to the CNCS transparency policy. We strongly recommend the use of 2 NSCHC vendors. And moving forward, there will be no alternative search protocols, ASPs. ASN policy changes included expanding the economic opportunity priority to be broader than just opportunity youth, focusing on the education, healthy futures, and economic opportunity NOFA priorities in evidence-based interventions, eliminating the safer communities priority due to a lack of applications over multiple years, creating full cost fixed award for all slot configurations, increasing the maximum cost per MSY from $15,192 to $15,479 to incorporate the $287 increase to the minimum living allowance, increasing the maximum cost per MSY for rural and/or opportunity youth from $15,360 to $15,647 to incorporate the $287 increase to the minimum living allowance, adding insufficient evidence as a threshold issue for funding consideration, decreasing the page limit from 13 to 12 for national directs with more than 5 operating sites and rural intermediaries, eliminated the re-review of commission ranked number 1s as part of the post-review quality control, and redistributed points between 2 subcategories. The culture that values learning was 6 points and is now 4 points, and member supervision was 2 points and is now 4 points. So these cover some of the key points related to the 2020 NOFA and the competition. And we're now ready to take any questions that you might have.
So folks on the line, we are using this new Zoom platform, so welcome. If you have questions, and you should be able to raise your hand. Once you raise your hand, if you'd like to chat in over the phone, I will unmute your line and then you can speak. Otherwise, there's also the question and answer box where you can pose your questions and we will read them aloud and address them this way as well. So if you do have questions, like I said, go ahead and raise your hand and I will unmute you. We do have one question that came from the chat already. What counts as an in-kind contribution?
Hi, so to answer the question, what counts as an in-kind contribution, it's really up to the applicant to decide what they want to include for that. It would be extremely important, of course, to document that and to ensure that it was being recorded at the market value.
Great, and thank you. Someone chimed in and said page 6 also references it. We do have another question that asks, such as volunteer hours, as a question.
That's a good question. Specifically, you'd probably, just a second. So for answer to that question about counting volunteer hours, please reference the financial management trainings that are on our website, and also consider attending the best practices in developing your budget webinar, which is going to be held on October 30th from 1:30 to 2:30. So to the question of whether programs are required to budget $54 for the National Service Criminal History Check, the answer is no.
Hi, there's a question saying, as a new applicant, do we email scientific studies to you on which a proposed program is modeled? You are able to submit evaluation reports or studies that provide evidence that support your program model. The NOFA provides specific instructions for how to submit those additional documents. So please refer to that guidance in the NOFA and the application instructions for how to submit those studies.
Another question, thank you. Hey, Bob, appreciate it. I'm also answers, but yes, this is being recorded. We post this on the NOFA page following this. We had another question come in. Can our part-time members be scheduled largely during the summer, or do they need to be spread across the full year?
Part-time members can be scheduled during the summer. They do not need to be scheduled throughout the entire year.
It's really based on your program design.
And another question, what is the guidance for submitting an application for nonprofit as a single state? How much emphasis is placed on the age of the organization and financial strength?
So for single state applicants, you really need to contact the commission in your state and find out about their processes and deadlines, and they can let you know all that.
Thank you. Had a question. What does MSY mean?
Sure. Member Service Year.
Another question. Is volunteer and communications task permissible?
I'm sorry, but I would need a little more on that before I could feel like I could answer it.
We had a question come in. As a fixed price grant, can we now have members who serve part-time, as in less than 38 to 40 hours per week?
So fixed amount grants can now include any type of member slot.
Is development of a volunteer management plan a permissible task for a member?
The answer would be yes. Again, it would want to be consistent with your program design.
Thank you. We had a question. What other types of projects have qualified outside of the previously mentioned categories?
So if you're referring to the priorities, we fund programs that do have priorities, those listed priorities as part of their program design, and we also fund programs that do not include those priorities as part of their program design. So it's really about developing a program that is answering a need in your community and how you're going to be able to best use AmeriCorps members to solve that.
What is the difference between competitive and formula applicants?
So competitive applicants their applications are submitted to CNCS by the January deadline. Formula is a process that state commissions run later in the year to fund programs that operate only in their states.
I'm working through the chat, the questions. Do state commissions need to send CNCS the recompete evaluation reports for their formula subgrantees?
No, they do not. No, you only need to submit evaluation reports for competitive programs.
We had a question. What is the benefit of a fixed amount grant?
Some people feel the benefit of a fixed amount grant is that you are not required to report matching funds to CNCS, which is different from being required to have matching funds, to have funds to run the program. Obviously, and any of the people that are on this call that have run an AmeriCorps program will know that the cost in a fixed price grant or even a cost reimbursement grant is not sufficient to run a quality AmeriCorps program. So some people find the lack of financial reporting to be a benefit for fixed price grants. One of the challenges, which should be taken into account related to your program design, is if you have concerns about your ability to recruit and retain members, that can be a challenge related to a fixed price grant and being able to draw down all of the funds.
Thank you. We do have a couple of budget questions in here. I'm just going to say that we do have the budgeting training that's happening next week at the same time. So if you have specific questions around how to develop your budget and what needs to be in your budget, I'm going to put a pause on those until next week when we have the people in the room who will be sharing that specific information. So thank you for the questions. We have them recorded, but we will go ahead and pause those until next week. Definitely feel free to revisit them through that conversation. Moving through, we had a question. Our state commission directed us to submit directly to CNCS through eGrants. Is that the proper way to submit the proposal?
So I'm just going to say that if you are operating in a single state, you do need to follow their guidelines and their direction to you. And not having seen it, I can't answer to that, but whatever instruction they've given you is what you need to follow, please.
And they said they're a single state. Mm-hmm. All right, and also this is a great time to also remind people that we do have the AmeriCorps grants at cns.gov as a resource, as well as you have these a little bit more specific questions as they come in that we can definitely address. Our program, so this is another question, sorry. Our program often has a challenge relating to a significant number of snow days in the schools we operate in. It is a policy to have a work from home policy, and are there any guides on doing so?
So AmeriCorps State National does have a teleservice policy. You would need to reference that in deciding how you would want to try to ameliorate that situation in your program.
Thank you.
Most of our programs that work in schools, though, are working actually with the students that are in the school. So it would be a little bit confusing about how that service would continue if the schools are not open.
Another question, can members be responsible to create newsletters, post to social media, websites, etc.?
Yes, as long as that's not a staff member's responsibility.
Yeah, so we would guide you towards prohibited activities, displacement, unallowable activities, those kinds of things that are all available in our resources. I have a question. The proposals, so this year we have 4 programs for competition. The proposals that they prepare must be submitted by the programs themselves, or do we, the commission, submit the proposals?
So again, yes, for programs operating only in a single state, those would come through the commission. So they would submit them to the commission would submit them then to CNCS.
The commission would run their process, and some of them may be.
I think is the question I had. There were operating in a single state, and our 3 states in both. So either the commission or
if you're operating in 2 or more states, you are a national program and you would apply directly to CNCS.
What is the guidance for submitting an application for a nonprofit in a single state? How much emphasis is placed on the age of the organization and financial strength?
So again, do please contact the commission for your state, and they will let you, they'll let you know all about their process and how they run it.
You see, so I see right now your question is, we'd like to DC, North Carolina, Louisiana.
Could apply and single state commission, right? And on of any of those applications, they can ask to duplicate these slots and would slots that were out of the funding, if that makes sense.
for users. We do have many resources on our Knowledge Network that you can access. Also on our NOFA page, it links to different technical assistance and webinars. So I would encourage you to explore the Knowledge Network, and nationalservice.gov/resources is the link. But again, that's located in on the NOFA page as well. Thank you, Hope. So in Maryland, we applied to the commission and applied to each state commission is the question. We want to be a national direct operating in multiple states. Is that allowable?
So if you want to be a national direct, then please do apply as a national direct directly to CNCS.
I'm not seeing any other questions coming through the Q&A. If you do have questions, again, want to reinstate that we do have resources, both on our Knowledge Network, and then also you can email, we put it on the screen, AmeriCorps grants@cns.gov. Definitely feel free to follow up.
Thank you, everybody, for attending the call today, and good luck.